Alright. Welcome. So we started looking at design last week, but we couldn't even go far. I think I got carried away, but it was good that we said those things, because those things would be like the foundation of what we're looking at today and next week. So I began saying that all of the cosmological arguments we looked at had different emphasis. With the Kalam cosmological argument, what you're looking at is the fact that the universe began to exist, right? So you're looking at the beginning of the universe. With Leibniz argument, what you're looking at is the fact that the universe exists at all. It's the presence of the universe, right? Now, what we want to do is we want to look at intricacies. How do we go from there is a God to this thing was created by God? That's basically how we want to go. And like I said that we'll be looking at it on 3 layers. We're going to look at the universe, right? We're going to look at life, and then we're going to look at macroevolution, basically. So we're looking at it on those 3 layers. So we're looking at the complexity of life, we're looking at the presence of life, the origin of life, and then we're looking at the universe. So we're looking at God's creation, or at what we call God's creation. We're looking at the universe, and then we're looking at humankind, or created beings, animals, humans, that kind of thing. And we have done fine-tuning. Last week we started saying that science has limits. There are limitations to science. And we gave an example from the 4 causes and said that if you are trying to find out the cause of something or the reason behind something, there are at least 4 questions you will need to answer. You will need to answer who created it. You will need to answer why it was created. You are going to now need to answer the material that was used for the creation and the form, the shape, the structure of that thing. Aristotle's 4 causes, yeah? So, we said that science was limited because science can only tell us form and material. Science cannot tell us purpose. Science cannot tell us agency, right? You cannot examine a car and find out who designed the car simply by examining the car. You cannot tell us the purpose of this pulpit simply by subjecting it to a test in the lab. So what science does really is that it answers the questions that come out of observation. So that if we want to know the use of something, what we're going to do is we're going to observe it. Then we'll generate various hypotheses, and then from those hypotheses we will now test the hypothesis, and then we'll see what works. That's basically what science does. So it means that with science, you need to be able to follow the evidence where it leads. You have to be open-minded like that to follow the evidence where it leads. So it is bad science to rule out certain causes before examining the evidence. Of course, it is bad. Okay, remember the example I gave. You came to class today, right? And you found my dead body here. And then Makinde is investigating. And he finds out that me and you were here yesterday. We had lunch here yesterday. In fact, beside my dead body, there is a plate of stockfish that has not been really eaten. then there are cutlery on the floor, right? And then there are a few drops of blood on the floor. Then there is golden-looking strands of hair on the floor. Now, Makinde comes and says that he's trying to find my killer, but he knows that it cannot be long-tailed. You see that before he even starts, he has ruled out a possible answer, a possible conclusion, right? But then it's very likely that it is long T. In fact, the evidence looks, you make food, right? You have golden hair, and maybe if they even test your blood, it will be O positive, like your blood group. And then when they check your DNA, it's going to be you. But he has concluded that it cannot be you. So he's looking very frantically for another cause. Who killed Joshua? Long T. Say, remove Long T from the picture. It cannot be Long T. Who else can it be? That's what a lot of naturalistic atheists do. From the beginning, they've decided that God cannot be the answer. So now that we have decided that God cannot be the answer, let's look for. Do you get? A lot of times it leads to, well, it always leads to frustration. But then there was this, I remember, I think like 20 years ago, like year 2000, there was something that was called junk DNA. I was telling you, there was something that was called junk DNA. Junk DNA are parts of the DNA that scientists did not know what they were about. They really did not know what they were about. And then atheists had said that it is, well, junk DNA. Naturalistic atheists. Particularly Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is a professor of zoology, so that's like his field. He's a biologist. So he had said that this thing is junk DNA, it doesn't have any function, and all of that. Well, it was found out about maybe 10, 12 years ago that junk DNA is not junk DNA. It actually has functions. It actually has serious functions, right? Those functions are even necessary for the replication of DNA as a whole. So the point is that it is not true that Christianity or theism makes you go into a scientific rut. Like saying that because God exists, we don't need to find out what happened. In fact, on the contrary, it is because God exists that we can do science with confidence. Like I explained to you last week, right? It's because God exists that we can do science with confidence. Now, those are like background statements, but let's dive into what we're supposed to do today. So, we want to look at the universe now and see, is it possible that this thing was designed or it just happened? So, we have two extremes. You either have the fact that it was designed, and if it was designed, then there is a designer, right? If you imply design, then you are implying a designer. Or it popped out into existence out of nothing. Right? You guys know that philosophically, it doesn't work. Popped out into existence out of nothing doesn't work. You know that much. Philosophically, nothing can come out of nothing. And I explained to you the two ways that people use the word nothing last week. But the way we're using the word nothing is not anything. That's what it means. Not anything. There's nothing. Do you get? Like, nothing means nothing. Not black empty space. It means nothing. Even black empty space is something. It means nothing. Right? So out of nothing, nothing comes. Everybody knows that. That makes sense. But what the Bible teaches is that in the beginning, God created. Right? In the beginning, God created. So what the Bible teaches is creation out of nothing. Right? But that's not classically creation out of nothing because God existed. Right? But if you're looking at the space-time continuum, yes, it's creation out of nothing. Nothing existed until the words of God came forth. Right? So when the words of God came forth, then things began to pop into existence. Okay? That's what the Bible teaches. So, is it rational to think that the universe was designed, or is there another alternative? What we'll be contrasting it against really is not against the fact that something popped out of nothing. It's against the popular multiverse theory that people have been pushing. That's like the most talked about alternative to the fact that there was a designer right now. Not because it has a lot of sense, but it's because they talk about it, so we're going to examine it. So, the universe. First of all, we've looked at Kalam, we've looked at the fact that everything that begins to exist has a cause, right? So, everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. So that speaks of the origin of the universe, Right. So I'll give you the teleological argument, and then I'll just explain. And
The what argument?
teleological. That's the fine-tuning.
Okay.
Premise 1. Every design had a designer. Every design had a designer. Premise 2. We know beyond reasonable doubt that the universe is designed. Premise 3. Or conclusion, sorry. The universe had a designer. Okay, so premise 1, premise 2, conclusion. Premise 1, every design had a designer. Premise 2, we know beyond reasonable doubt that the universe was designed. Conclusion, the universe had a designer. That's kind of a good way to frame the teleological argument. So, now we want to look at the premises. Premise 1, every design had a designer. I'm not sure anybody debates this premise. If it's design, had a designer. So when we're talking about the origin of life and we're talking about evolution, you see that we're talking about intelligent design and we're talking about naturalistic atheists. So the people that believe that life was designed, they hold to the intelligent design theory. And like I was saying, not all of them are Christians. It's not like a Christian view. Because that's kind of how the atheists see it. They look at scientists that hold to intelligent design as they are just trying to smuggle religion into the picture. So they call them creationists, but they are not exactly the same thing. I know people, I've heard of people, I've read of people that hold to intelligent design, but don't believe in the theistic concept of God. Yeah. There's a whole lot of ways that people think. Like, you'll be shocked when you read the things that people say. There's a philosopher that believes that human beings don't exist. Yes. This thing is a school of thought, too, that we don't exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are we? What imagination?
I'm saying you'll be shocked the way people think. Oh boy, people think and they write. That's the good thing. Once they just think, they don't write it and publish. Then you go and read it. Then that's the way academics actually works. That's actually the way it should be. You think you write, somebody takes your work, critiques it, and then the back and forth, and out of that mumbo jumbo, sense will come out. Yeah. But if you cannot even critique what your teacher said. You cannot even think about what your teacher said. You know, now they ask you a question. You know, be like, I think that, no, don't think. What's in the note? Say what's in the note. Why are you thinking about it? On what grounds? A consultant has told me that I don't have the right to think.
Yay.
Yes. That I get the right to think when I become a fellow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard that
Yes.
in my class too.
Yes. That you don't have the right to think.
Yeah.
Right now, you're supposed to say what they tell you. When you become a consultant, then you can think.
This is Nigerian system, right?
Of course, it's here that it works. So, you'd see the whole intelligent design versus naturalistic atheism. That's like the divide. It's like the both sides of the fight. Every design had a designer. Nobody thinks that if you had design, you don't need a designer. What they have problems with is the second premise, that the universe was designed. Which is why the second premise is framed beyond any reasonable doubt. right? That's why it's framed that way. Richard Dawkins says that life has the appearance of complexity and design, but it is not designed. Yeah, he says that in his book, The Blind Watchmaker. And life has the appearance. He says that it has the appearance. Has the appearance of and complexity of design, but it is not designed. Man, the guy has to be really smart. And you can see it. someone writing in response said if he looks like a dog, he talks like a dog, he barks like a dog, he eats like a dog, it is a dog. That was his response to that thing that Richard Dawkins said. Like, how can you... Oh boy. But Dawkins says a lot of horrible, horrendous... I tell you that atheists are ashamed of him. Like... So... The universe was designed. That's what we want to look at. Do we have evidence to say, okay, based on this, it looks like the universe was designed? That's what we want to look at. If this premise is true and this premise is true, then the conclusion naturally follows, right? It's a deductive argument. You don't need to... If the first and the second premise are more plausibly true than false, then it follows that the conclusion is true. The sound is valid. You get what that means? Okay. Alright. So... what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at features of the universe that make it look or that give us an idea as to the evidence of design or absence of design. So that's what we want to be looking at. Features of the universe, and there are a whole lot of them. So generally speaking, it's called the anthropic principle. Anthropic principle. So anthropic is just anthros, like anthropology, like human, So the anthropic principle, these are the things in the universe that make the universe sufficient or make the universe capable of sustaining human life. Those are the things. The things that make the universe capable of sustaining human life. And there are a whole lot of them. I think the last time I checked, I saw that there are about 122 of these constants that have to be maintained in the exact same way that they are. If not, the universe will collapse. There are 122 of them. There are 122. Then, someone did a mathematical model and said that the probability of these 122 constants appearing in the universe by chance is 1 in 10 raised to power 138. Okay, so it means that if you have 10 raised to power 138 balls that were red, then you now have one black ball inside the mix. The probability that you pick that one black ball is 1 in 10 raised to power 138. I know you don't know what 10 raised to power 138 is. We don't have any word for it. Just so you know, this one like this is 1,000 baht.
Yeah.
This is how many? 1 million. This is what? Billion. Yeah. This is how many? 9 zeros.
9.
This one is what? What's the name of this one? Meanwhile, this is 6, 12, 18. Right? So, this is 10 raised to power 18. This 10 raised to power 138. Just for context, the number of atoms in the universe. Atoms. Not atoms, so. The number of atoms in the universe is 10 raised to power 70.
Oh,
That's the number of atoms in the universe. Meanwhile, the probability of attaining or the probability of finding a universe in which all 122 constants are on point for survival is 1 in 10 raised to power 138. This is why you're going to understand why they push the multiverse theory later on. You will understand that, but just keep this somewhere in your head. Now, we can't look at all 122 of these constants, so I'll just give you some of them. Now, at the Big Bang, what happened at the Big Bang was there was a singularity. Some scientists don't like calling it a singularity anymore, but whatever. There was a singularity. It was at this singularity that space, time, and energy came into being. Right? So, from this singular point, the universe began to expand. Right? We saw when we were looking at Kalam about the expansion of the universe. That was one of the things that confirmed the fact that the universe had a beginning, that the universe is expanding. And at some point, the universe is going to run out of usable energy. Right? Because the universe is expanding. So even science predicts that the universe will end. It means that even without the Bible, the end will come. That's part of the reasons why you know how I feel about people that say that they are immortal. It just doesn't really make sense. Because even if you are immortal, the universe that you are existing in is not immortal. So when that universe should go, what will happen to you? Let me not climb those people's table. Because those guys used to celebrate birthday. So the universe began to expand. Right? Now, the universe expanded at a certain rate. There's a rate of expansion. There's a rate of expansion. If that rate of expansion was altered by 0. If that rate of expansion was altered by this thing, 0.000000000000001, if it was reduced by this value, the universe would have collapsed on itself.
Really?
Yes. If it was increased by this value, the universe would have expanded so fast that nothing would have formed. So, the expansion rate of the universe is one of these constants. Right? I have some here, but this one is just off of my head. It's one of these constants. Okay? So, is it possible that this thing happened by chance? Well, yeah. It is. You see the problem? The problem is we're going to 122 of these things happening at the same time. You see, the probability of this thing happening by chance, 1. Let's even say it's still possible. See, we're going to 122. Oxygen. We know that in the atmosphere, oxygen is 21% of air, right? Oxygen is 21%. Now, if the value of oxygen in air was 15%, if it was 15%, no living thing would survive. If it was 25%, fires would erupt spontaneously. If the value of oxygen was 20%, you will not be able to start a fire. You know that fire needs oxygen to burn, right? You will not be able to start a fire if the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere was 20. If the amount of oxygen was 25, fire will just keep burning, never go off. So you just start on its own. You're just sitting there and fire just starts burning. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere is under constant. Do you get what I'm saying? The weak force, there are 4 fundamental forces of nature. There are 4. There is the weak force. If you didn't do science, I'm sorry, I can't really, but it's really not so difficult, actually. But you know this oxygen one, even if you didn't do science.
I can't understand now.
You did, what they call it? Inter-science, you did inter-science. So you know at least oxygen is 21%, nitrogen is... There's electromagnetism.
Oh Lord.
Don't worry, we're not.
Okay.
I'm just mentioning it.
Okay.
There's gravity. There's the weak force. And then there's the strong force. These four forces are like the fundamental forces of nature. This is what holds everything together. I'm looking at it from a scientific perspective, right? Of course, we know that God sustains all things by the word of His power, right? And it is because of God's word that everything is sustained in being. But this is how He does it. He has set this thing in motion. And these four forces are what hold everything. Now, the weak force actually operates. We're not talking of all of them. In fact, we'll talk about gravity too. I'll mention gravity. But the weak force actually operates inside the nucleus of an atom. So, you have an atom, you have the nucleus of the atom. The weak force is what holds it together. Right? If the value of the weak force was altered by 1 in 10 raised to power 100, atoms will not exist. You will not exist. Nothing will exist, really. That just gives you. So you need to understand that survival, we are on a knife's edge. We're on a knife's edge. If anything should get altered, you know all these people that used to say an asteroid is going to hit the earth. This thing. Part of the reasons why I know that it's not possible, I don't even used to read those news. It's because it's not time for the world to end yet. Because the earth rotates on an angle, is tilted on an angle of 23 degrees. Right? If that angle should change by 1 degree, not even 1 degree, a few minutes, you know that I have degrees and minutes. If that angle should change, our weather, our climate, our rain cycle, everything you know will scatter. Will be dead in less than a year. I know you don't know anything about the weak force, but you understand what I'm talking about. And that one off my head before I start looking at the books. Gravity. Gravity is the force that enables two objects to get attracted to each other, right? So, that's gravity. Gravity is not what brings something that goes up, down. That's just like an expression. But gravity is what brings two objects together. There's a force of attraction between two objects. Like between Gift and Makindina, there's a force of attraction between them.
Yes, sir.
Amen?
Amen.
So, their own is not, it's not that type. It's not that type of force. But, so, there's a force that attracts two bodies together. Gravity, yeah? We know that there's a gravitational constant, right? You should know that one too. Anyhow, is inside interscience, science, not physics. There's a gravitational constant. If the gravitational constant changed by, again, let's say this 0.000001 value, the universe will not have formed at all. Yeah. It will not have formed. The point is, when you see how dicey these values are, you get to wonder if these things happen by accident or if somebody actually set them so. Right? Even if you don't want to go as far as to say somebody, because that would be going beyond the limits of the argument, right? Saying somebody. All we have is a designer. We don't have a somebody. We just have a designer, right? I can push this argument to say that the designer is a somebody. Because if somebody was designing, the person had a mind, obviously, right? But that's not an outcome of this deductive argument. If it's a deductive argument, the only thing we can say is that the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises, which is that a designer exists. So, looking at these values would make you think, did this thing just happen by chance, or was there actually a designer? Do you get the point? Alright, so let me give some other values now. Okay. The Big Bang. The Big Bang is when the universe began, right? Scientists have told us that. And as a Christian, I think that the Big Bang is a very reasonable explanation for what happened in the beginning. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. So something exploded out of nowhere. Somebody exploded it from outside, basically. That's how I look at it. So the Big Bang required a low entropy state. Hey, God, what will we do with you? Entropy, okay. The way they explained to us in secondary school is a simplistic way of understanding it. This is work. Is the ability to disorder, the propensity to disorder. For example, if you see, nature generally disorganizes. Generally speaking, nature disorganizes. If you leave wood outside, right, for 6 months, when you come back, you're not going to have chairs. You're going to have broken down wood, right? If you allow water to keep running into this place, it's going to disorganize everything, right? There is, welcome. You're sitting there, you may not see what's on this board. Nature generally disorganizes. So they call it entropy. The propensity to disorderliness. The propensity to disorderliness. You are not a science person, have you? The Lord will help you. So entropy. Entropy is the propensity to disorder, basically. Now, for the Big Bang to have happened, the entropy state of the universe had to be very low. If not, the thing would have just scattered very quickly. So this is what happened at the Big Bang. So there is the surge of energy, right, that happens at that time. Space begins to expand, right, and matter begins to coalesce. Right? Matter begins to coalesce. It is because of gravity that they are coming together. So there's an expansion of the universe, and then there's a coming together of matter in the universe to form planets, to form everything that forms. Right? If the entropy state of the universe was higher, those things would not have been ordered in the way that they became ordered. Do you get the point? We needed a very low entropy state for the universe to have formed. If the let me see the value. So the Big Bang required a low entropy state for the universe to begin. The probability of that happening by chance, that low entropy state of the universe, the probability that it just happened, just randomly, is 1 in 10 raised to power 10 raised to power 123. Now, if you have this kind of money, this amount of money in your bank account, even in Kobo, you are still okay. You have 10 raised to power 123 Kobo in your bank account. You are good. That is using the money for. The probability of it happening by chance is 1 in that value, right? The odds of our solar system forming by the random collision of particles is 1 in 10 raised to power 10 raised to power 60. That's the odds that our solar system would have formed. Now, later on we're going to talk about chance, because when people say chance, what do they really mean? When you say something happened by chance, what do you mean? Do you mean chance caused it? Because chance doesn't cause anything. Chance is just a word we use when something random happened. If I have a coin, it has a head and it has a tail, yeah? If I flip it up, what are the chances that I'll get a head? 50%, right? What are the chances I'll get a tail? 50%, right? Or 1 in 2, or 0.5 in 1, right? So those are the chances that I'll get a head or get a tail. So I can say that I got a head by chance. Did chance cause it to be a head? No. The reason it's a head is because I flipped it up and it rotated 17 times. And when I flipped it up, the head was below. Right? And then I flipped it up, it rotated 17 times, and then it came back and landed on my palm. That's why it's a head. So that when people talk about chance, we need to find out, what exactly are you saying? It happened by chance. Okay, if it happened by chance, that's not an answer to who or what caused it. Do you get? It happened by chance is not an answer to what caused it. And the question we are looking at is, what caused the universe? Is this whole designer thing. What caused it? It happened by chance really doesn't mean anything. You have not made any scientific statement. Do you get the point? Okay. Again, another figure for you to think about. Since the universe began, the age of the universe, you know that we say that the universe is about maybe 13, 14, 15 billion years, right? I think the scientific consensus is about 13 billion years, the universe. The Earth is about 4.5 billion years. Since the universe began, 13 billion years, the number of seconds that have passed since the universe began, from the beginning of the universe till now, how many seconds have passed? Intelligent people checked. The answer they got a few years ago was 10 raised to the power 17. So that you are thinking about 13 billion years, you are thinking about 10 raised to the power 17 seconds, right? And then you are thinking that somebody is saying 1 in 10 raised to the power 10 raised to the power 123, or 1 in 10 raised to the power 138. Do you get how I'm thinking about it? If you, what we're actually saying is that the chances are 0. The probability is 0. That's, mathematically speaking, is 0. If you have, in fact, this thing, mathematically speaking, is 0. This 1, not to talk of 1 in 10 raised to the power 138. Did you get? Alright, so let me read off some more. I've written some down here for you. Okay, no, let me not read. I won't read all. Okay, the one I put on my status today about Jupiter, that one is just very beautiful. Jupiter acts as a vacuum cleaner of sorts, the gravitational field of Jupiter. So Jupiter is very large, right? And when asteroid and space debris is coming into our orbit, it is the gravitational field of Jupiter that absorbs it, that takes it, right? But Jupiter is a ball of gas, basically. Jupiter is not there's ground, there's water, there's all of that. It's a ball of gas. And then I even think, it's been a while since I read up on it, but I think that in the atmosphere there is one noble gas. It's either helium or something in the atmosphere of Jupiter, right? It's gas, it's just gases. So as those asteroids and all those space debris are coming, the gravitational pull of Jupiter sucks it in, attracts it, so it gets inside, it just gets destroyed, gas. If not, those things would have been hitting the Earth. Do you really think that thing just happened? It's possible again. Except that you have to explain the other 121. Then you have to explain that 122 of them happened at the same time by chance. Alright. If the thickness of the Earth's crust was greater, too much oxygen will be transferred to the crust to support life. If it were thinner, volcanic and tectonic activity will kill all of us. You know that tectonic plates shift. What it means is that so you have like here, you have here, you have here, you have here. So the plates of the Earth. So the Earth has plates, right? They are constantly shifting. Yes, they are constantly shifting. That is when the thing happens too much that you have a volcano or you have an earthquake. right? An earthquake, not a volcano. When it happens too much, then you have an earthquake, not a volcano. A volcano is a different distance. So those earthquakes and the shifting of tectonic plates are actually the things that help to recycle nutrients. That's why you can farm. Yes. Have you not thought about the fact that by now nutrients should have finished in the world? It's the shifting of those plates that actually help to recycle nutrients so that people can farm, so that life can be possible. If the plates of the earth, if the crust of the earth was too thin, we'll just have earthquakes everywhere, everybody will just die. If it was too thick, there will be too much oxygen transferred to the crust of the earth and all of us will just die. Do you get the point? Do you get it now? It's that one is easy to understand.
So earthquakes are important for life.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately, earthquakes are important for life. It's one of the reasons why we usually think about whether if Adam didn't sin or not, people would have died, natural disasters and all. Would people have died? People, I think that Craig has tried to give one very funny response to it. Maybe would have been aware of the earthquakes long before they come and would have evacuated, but because of the fall we have lost all of those sensitivities, so now earthquakes just kill us. But yeah, earthquakes are important for life. Without earthquakes we wouldn't be here, as bad as it is.
Why?
Because that's the only way that nutrients get recycled in the earth. If you don't have nutrients, you can't farm. If you don't have farm, you can't have your oxygen comes from your plants, right? And then animals eat the grasses, and then we eat the animals and we eat the grasses. So that whole cycle of life thing that you see in Lion King, without earthquakes we won't have it. Alright, yeah, so earthquakes are important for life. Okay. Let me not. Alright, so let me just leave it here. I've given us a number of them. I'm pretty sure I've given up to like 10. But the question is, do all of these things lead us to believe that the earth was designed? That's why you see, again, the second premise is beyond reasonable doubt. Right? Beyond reasonable doubt. This is because what we are looking at now, how we are looking at it, is we are looking at probabilities. Do you get? We are looking at probabilities. And with probabilities, that's all you can say. What are the chances if this room was filled with balls the size of this thing, and then all of them were red, but then there was just one that was black, and they said that if you pick the black one, you will live. If you pick a red one, you will die. If you pick a red one, they will shoot you. But if you pick a black one, you survive. Do you want to play the game? They even tell you if you pick a black one, you survive and will transfer 1 million bitcoins to your account. But if you pick the red one, you die. Will you play the game? I won't play. The reason why I know that 1 million bitcoins. Keep your bitcoins, please.
Even if the odds are 1/5.
As in, you're not even believing. I mean, right? So they're going to tie your eyes, they're going to blindfold you, then you just enter inside, then you just pick one. You pick the black one.
What's wrong? You're picking the black one.
Now, do you know that it's possible for someone to actually pick the black one? It's possible. But it's not plausible. And I've been telling you guys the difference between possible and plausible. It's not plausible to think that you pick the black one. It's not plausible at all. That's exactly why. Oh my, sorry. The string went off. That's exactly why people lose money when they gamble. Do you know that I found that when people gamble, right, there is a 54% chance that the casino will win, and there is a 46% chance that the person would win. This is how the odds are. The way the game is, it's just 54%. that the casino will win, and 46% that the person would win. But the casinos almost always win. On top of this, how many percent difference? Do you get the point? It means that, okay, so another way to look at it is that there is a 5.4 over 10 chance that the casino will win. There's a 4.6 over 10 chance that you would win. Do you understand? That makes, that's not bad odds, though. You know, it's very close. It doesn't look like, but it's on top of this chance now that if you become a casino owner, you are set for life. Not to talk about the fact that there is now a 1 in 100, or 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 10,000, or 1 in 100,000, or 1 in 10 raised to power 138. Whatever that number is, we don't know. Your calculator will show you error, I assure you. We don't know what it is. So, is it possible actually that this thing happened by chance? It is. There's a slight possibility, no matter how remote. Mathematically speaking, is zero. That chance does not exist, right? But philosophically speaking, there is a slight chance, right? But it's not plausible to think that it is what happened. It's not. It's not plausible to think that if you had a 10 raised to power 138 universes, we just happen to be in the one that supports life.
Only one.
Yes, just one. Just one universe. Not one planet, not one solar system. One universe. For context, a universe is made up of many solar systems. Our own solar system, right, is inside the galaxy. There are other solar systems inside the galaxy. Our galaxy is the Milky Way galaxy, right? Now, in our solar system, there are many stars, right? Like, you know, normal stars, like star that is shining in the sky, or But then you see, our sun is a star. The sun is a star. Yeah. Yes, the sun is a star. Right. It's actually a very small star.
Whoa.
Yes.
So what happens? Is it like?
It's the difference in distance.
Oh.
The difference in distance. So, okay. Now, I used to read a lot of astronomy while I was in secondary school. I loved it so much. I think that everybody wanted to be an astronaut growing up, but my own was too much. I really wanted to be an astronaut. Space is beautiful.
That dream.
I will still go to space. I will go to space, whether by science or by teleportation. Alright, so the sun is a star, right? Now, the difference in distance between our sun and the closest sun star, right, to our solar system is 30 trillion miles. The difference in distance between our sun and the closest sun is 30 trillion miles. Now, when spacecrafts travel, they travel at 5 miles per second. That's their highest speed, 5 miles per second, right? So it turns out to be like 17,000 miles per hour or something. And you don't know what that means. You don't know how fast that is. Because I'm sure the best they have done is 140 kilometers per hour. That 140 kilometers per hour, maybe like 100 miles per hour, right? But when these space shuttles travel, they travel at 17,000 miles per hour. Now, if you are going to travel from one star, our sun to another sun, it's going to take you 200 and something thousand years at the speed of the space shuttle. Yes, 200 and something thousand years. When I read it, I can't remember the exact value, but it was more than 200,000. Maybe 202,000 or something. Yes. If you are traveling with the speed of our space shuttle from our sun, you want to go to the closest, not the end though. You are not going to the end, you are going to the one that is closest to you, the near one. It will take you at least 200,000 years traveling by space shuttle to get from our star to another star. It means if you left Earth when Jesus was born, by now you would have done 1/100 of the journey. Do you get how immense our solar system is? How immense our galaxy is? And then we have the conservative count is that we have 100 million galaxies, conservative, in our universe. Yeah.
How did they count it?
No, it's physics.
Okay.
Right? Physics, maths, they have models that they used to do this thing. It's not like somebody went. Right. So, human beings have not gone so far. Right? They've not. Even Mars is just unmanned flights that have sent to Mars. Right? It's just moon that we have gone to. Just moon. So you see that there are many things to do at the end of time. There will be a new heaven, there will be a new earth. So I say, what will we be doing? What will we do? There are many things to do. There are many things to do. You see, this thing that we're doing on earth now, what, do you think we're doing anything? I've not done anything. No human being has been shown to use more than 10% of his brain capacity. None. Your brain capacity, you can't use more than 10% of it. Nobody. Have you watched this film? What's the name of that film? Lucy. She was using her brain until she disappeared into nothingness. Well, I don't talk about the film, but at least you see that there's a whole lot. I'm saying that if man did not fall, only God knows what would have been doing. There will still have been work.
Too much work.
There will still have been work. We still have worked, right? But it will have been, oh boy, this universe, exploring this universe, just exploring it. Don't go to hell, though. Don't go to hell, man. Whatever you do, don't go to hellfire. It's boring, I assure you. Hellfire is boring. People say that if I go to hell, maybe Michael Jackson will be there. Okay. So, you see how immense our solar system is. You see how immense our galaxy is, right? I don't have a projector or pictures here, but I showed the picture in Kogi State. So you can see like our galaxy, something like this. Our solar system is just one small dot here. Yes, just one.
To just put that in perspective, the sun is 13 times the Earth.
Yeah.
To the Earth.
Yeah.
And the sun is maybe one of the smallest stars in our galaxy.
Yeah.
So you now imagine how we are.
Like
in
the earth. Do you get, like, we are so as in, I used to say it, people used to, even pencils not reach. I used to say it, people used to beef me. We are not important at all in the grand scheme of things, but the only thing that makes us important is the image of God. That's all, nothing else. There's nothing, like we're not there at all. The only thing that sets us apart is the fact that God has decided to place His image in us. That's all, nothing more. So you see how vast the universe is, you see how vast our galaxy is, right? And then you see all of these constants that keep it in place. And then you have the mind to say this thing happened by chance. Okay, so they say it didn't happen by chance. So what they propose is there's a multiverse theory. So the multiverse theory. Now, if you do a lot of movies, you see that the multiverse theory is actually gaining acceptance in mainstream contemporary culture. In fact, Marvel, they have started doing multiverse things. In fact, I heard that Doctor Strange, the theme is the multiverse of madness, the next one.
Oh.
Yes. And then the next Spider-Man, they are going to do the whole multiverse thing. So the other two Spider-Mans are going to come. I'm sorry if you don't understand what I'm talking about, but the people that know, they know. You are still watching Genevieve and Rita Dominic. Okay, I don't watch Rita Dominic again. You're watching Regina Daniels. Okay, I will not attack your movie again. So you see that the whole multiverse thing is gaining acceptance in contemporary culture. And you would also notice that every time they want to spread an ideology, that's what they do. They put it into movies. There is no movie you watch on Netflix now. If it's a series, I assure you, get to season 2, there will be a gay or a lesbian couple inside.
It's even coming to Africa.
Right? I mean, it's... You can't...
South Africa is drunk the water.
You can't. And I'm sorry to say, it's going to hit us. It's going to hit our society. As in this Nigeria, but forget, I know that now we say we have laws against homosexuality in a small time. It will change. Our only hope is that as the darkness covers the earth, our light will shine. That is the prophecy of scripture. Darkness will cover the earth. Thick darkness will cover the people. Right? So if you keep hoping that this world is going to be a better place, I'm sorry. You are wrong. It will not be exactly better. It won't change it. It won't change it. Right? It won't change it. So the other day I was preaching at that protest, and I was telling them that the fact that we have a new nation doesn't mean anything. You can have a new nation where there's no SARS. You can have a new nation where there's no Buhari. You can have a new nation where there's no Lalong. Right? It doesn't mean that the country will be good. Today I was reading and I saw that China, in the last 5 years, China has provided 60 million new jobs. In the last 5 years. Their GDP is going to hit 15 trillion by the end of this year. 15 trillion US dollars. They have 95% coverage of supersonic trains to cities that have a population of 1 million or more. 95% of those cities have coverage by train. China is the place to live. Their life expectancy is 77.3 years. Your own, in Nigeria, your life expectancy, I'm not sure it's now 49. Last time I checked, it was 49 for females, 47 for males. Yes. It means that by 49 you should be dead. That's the expectation. If you are living in Nigeria. It means you have reached half of your life. Do you get the point? It means that if it's 47, it means that you have less than, everybody here will have less than 30 years. By the plan. You should have died in the next 30 years. That's what it means. But you see, in China, it's 77.3 years. Do you see? So you see that society is totally different from this society. But you see, in that society, you can't practice your faith freely. Which one do you prefer? Think about it. Because eventually, that's going to be the promise of the Antichrist system. It's a system that promotes everything good at the expense of faith. Unfortunately, all of those developments you're seeing in that world, it doesn't have eternal value. Do you get the point? So you're a Christian in China, you'll be persecuted. You're a Muslim in China, you'll be persecuted. You'll be fine if you're atheist. Yes. If you have any faith pain, you are persecuted. So if I asked you now, do you want to move to China? You see, shallow Nigerians that are moving abroad, it's because they don't know the trouble. So, and I'm not saying that anybody should not move abroad. Of course, I'm all for moving abroad. If you want to move abroad, by all means, please move. Right? The problem is, the society you are moving into is not better than this society. It's just different from this society. There are challenges everywhere. The challenges, they are peculiar to the challenges here. There are different challenges. So you can have a country that everything is good. You have health insurance, you have power, you have water, you're not paying too much tax, there are good roads, you can get a car very easily, get phones, you can do all of that. But you can't spank your children. They call the cops on you. And then they have a curriculum that teaches them naturalism. Naturalistic thinking is part of the teaching. Right? They teach them evolution. They're indoctrinated with these things growing up. They are telling them that there's more than 2 genders. It's in the curriculum. This thing is in the curriculum. There's more than 2 genders. You don't have to be male or female. You don't have to be binary. You can be any other thing. That's what they are teaching your children. But you want to go there. Is it not better to stay here and buy gen and be doing keke business and be getting small money, and your children will make it in
And wait for the new heaven.
and wait for the new heaven and new earth. Because
The color of the skin is going to be something.
you see, the challenges are peculiar. And you know me, I used to tell you people, anybody that doesn't know apologetics should not have children. At basic level, you don't have any right to give birth to children, because those children are going to ask you questions one day. You will beat them, but one day you will not be able to beat them.
Yes, sir.
Then they will tell you that, see, they don't believe God exists, and there's nothing you can do about it. There was one day I was with Uncle, and Asha asked one question. Oh boy. I'm struggling to remember the question, but I know that question was a question that would have taxed me. A 7-year-old boy. You see, you can only suppress curiosity for so long. It will come out. You can't push it down forever. Then your children now have internet. What do you think will happen? They will check the internet. They go to class and they will discuss with friends whose parents are atheists. And then they are being ridiculed for the fact that their parents are Christian.
True.
What do you think will happen? I told you guys the other day, we must brainwash our children. We wash their brain, cover it in faith before they leave. If not, there's problem. Anyway, I don't know how I got here. But I was saying that our society is different from the Western society. There are different peculiarities. Unfortunately, those things are coming down here. They are going to hit us. You saw this whole NSAS thing that happened. I hope you know that it was beyond all of the NSAS thing. Who were the people at the forefront? Feminist coalition. And everybody was putting their logo, the whole yellow and black thing and this thing. That thing is the feminist symbol. And then at some point, they came out and said what they were really about. Did you see it? When people started dragging them, saying that this is not the right time to say this. Don't worry. Just give it 5 years. You will see those people. Because those guys were organized to the core. Those guys were saying, this is how much we got, this is how much we spent, this is how we spent the money. If your cars was damaged, they will send. Those guys were organized to the core. The people that were doing protests in Jos, they had ambulances that came from Abuja and stayed for a couple of days. The organization, Leno, if you are reading and you feel like you are not understanding this thing you want to drop, just think of your children. Then continue.
Like now, that's the thing.
You see, because always be prepared to give an answer at this point. It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming home, man. It's coming home. The world has changed. Has changed. Anyway, so the multiverse theory, right? So the okay.
Yeah. We were talking about mainstream media.
Yeah.
I just remember that because you must have seen the last edition of Spider-Man.
Yes,
now,
yes.
In around the 1 hour 20 minutes, because I had to capture that. You know, that was when they were talking about your truths. I don't know if you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't. I'll go and see it today.
Your truths. You know, when that guy had come to talk about that guy who was saying that Spider-Man was I think like was lying or something.
Yeah.
And then this girl now had to respond to him.
Yeah.
And then she now said
that's your truth.
Wait for him to come so that he can give us his
own truth. Everything is inside film now. It's inside film. If you are watching film with one eye on your own.
Spider-Man and it says children film.
No, there's no children film anymore. See, the things that our children will watch, we must watch them first before I allow them to watch them. That's one of the reasons why I want to buy the old Tom and Jerry and save it for my children. Because I'm not sure I'll allow them to watch TV. Yes. I mean, it's so bad. The other day, was it on our group I put it? That there's, okay, no, I didn't. There's a movie that is coming out on Netflix that was acted by some very young children. They are exploring their sexuality.
It's out.
Oh, it's out already. These children are not up to, the people in the children in the movie, they are not up to 12, but that movie is rated 18. Yes.
So who acted?
The children.
Why would they expose them to something that they are not supposed to be exposed to?
Why? Who is asking?
That's their exact plan. So if you go, you don't say, it's a children movie, it's a children movie. It's not a children movie. There's almost no movie that you check that you won't see these things inside. None.
The name is Cuties.
Cuties. There's almost no movie that you check you won't see these things inside. They said that the girl was as she was growing, she was exploring her sexuality. What does that even mean? But those are the things that our children are going to be exposed to. Always be prepared to give an answer. It's coming home. It's coming home. Multiverse theory, we're out of time. The multiverse theory, what they say, what the theory presupposes is that there are infinite universes. Now I need to get the point. There are infinite universes. You've probably heard about a doppelganger. Right? Like in one universe, there's somebody whose name is Joshua Agunbiade.
Yeah.
But he's not a doctor, he's not a preacher. He actually smokes weed and takes codeine. In one universe. You've probably seen it in movies. It's very rampant in movies, right? Okay, so that's the teaching about the multiverse theory, that there are infinite universes, and our universe just happens to be one of those infinite universes. So when you're saying that it will take you 1 in 10 raised to power 138 universes to arrive at what we have, they're like, yeah, of course, because we have an infinite number of universes. Do you get the point? So because we have an infinite number of universes, we can have a universe that sustains life without having a designer. We can have a universe that happened by chance because there are infinite number of universes, and so we can just have one that everything is good in. And that's why we are here. So there's a multiverse. Right? Now, there is a response to the multiverse theory. Number one, let me start with what we've talked about. Number one is, when we talk about infinity, there's no such thing as an actual infinite. There are only potential infinites. Remember we looked at this philosophically. You can't have an actual infinite. You can't. If you have 1 million billion pencils. If you added one more pencil, it doesn't make it infinity. It just adds one number to it. Right? So if you keep traveling along the line of numbers, you're never going to get to a point where you say this is infinity. Simply because they are numbers. Right? So saying that infinite universes exist doesn't make any sense, because there is no such thing as an actual infinite. There are only potential infinites. Do you understand this one? Gifts, did you get it? So if someone says there's an infinite number of universes, that's the philosophical way to respond. There's no such thing as an actual infinite. They are just potential infinites. Right? I need you to get it. And I gave an analogy the other day that we were answering Avril's question, saying that, is it possible to jump out of a pit that has no end, or that has no bottom? If you are in a pit that has no bottom, it means you're just going down. So imagine you're jumping out of a pit that has no bottom. So when you read in the Bible, you read bottomless pit. Don't go to hell. Whatever that thing means, you don't want to find out. So, can you be in a pit that has no bottom and jump out of it? It doesn't make sense. That's how the understanding of actual infinites are. if you have an actual infinite, you can never move to from an actual infinite to numbers. You can never. You can't move from infinity, then you were counting backwards, you now reach 100,000. You can't. And you can never count forwards, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 billion, 1 trillion, infinity. You can't. Infinity is a construct of the mind. There's no such thing as an actual infinite. If you count everything, you will get a number. It will not be infinity.
Yeah.
Do you get the point? If you count all the hairs on your head, you will get a number. But if I looked at the hairs on your head, the only way to describe it is that there are an infinite number of hairs on your head. It's a potential, it's a construct in our minds. It's not actual. There's actually a number of the hairs on your head. Right? And God knows the number. Do you get the point? So, number one, there's no such thing as an actual infinite. So if someone says there's an actual infinite number of universes, it just fails. It doesn't make sense philosophically. It doesn't make sense scientifically. Right? Number two is that there is no evidence for a multiverse. So all of the scientists say, okay, people are proposing a multiverse theory. Okay, give us evidence for it. There's none. Then you start hearing something about string theory. I think that sometimes their plan is to confuse you into acceptance. They just confuse you until you just agree. So when you talk of string theory, you know that now in this universe there are 3 dimensions. We live in a 3-dimensional world, right? They tell you that there are 11 dimensions. I don't know what that thing means. I'm not sure even them, they know what it means. Right? Reputable scientists have come out to debunk the whole string theory thing. So it's not something. So number 2, there's no evidence for a multiverse. Number 3, even if a multiverse existed, it does not remove the need for a first cause. Do you get the point? So, in fact, there are different versions of the multiverse theory. So, one of the versions of the multiverse theory is that parallel multiverses exist. Parallel universes exist, right? There's a universe here, there's a universe here, universe here, universe here, universe here. Another version of the multiverse theory is that every universe, right, has certain properties, right? It gets to an end, it collapses upon itself, forms a singularity, and gives birth to another universe. So that what you're having at the Big Bang is that there was a universe that came like this, got to a singularity, right? Then a Big Bang happened, it gave birth to another universe, right? It collapsed, came together, came here, gave birth to another universe, like that. So that's another theory. If you want to go by this, there is still no evidence of a beginning. From what they are saying, you cannot use the multiverse theory to throw away the idea of a first cause. There still has to be a first cause. Right? You cannot use the multiverse theory to throw away the idea of a designer. Because if the multiverse theory is true, it means it is infinitely more complex than the universe. Think about it. If the multiverse theory is true, that there are multiple universes, it means that a single universe is less complex than multiple universes. For multiple universes to exist, it has to be some sort of, let's not say design, but it has to be some sort of complex structure. Do you get it? The fact that a multiverse exists does not remove the need for a first cause. The fact that a multiverse exists does not remove the need for a designer. Simply because it is complex. Do you get the point? So if you are saying there is a multiverse, okay, we agree that there is a multiverse, and we agree that our universe is part of a multiverse. Okay, who designed the multiverse? That's the question. How did the multiverse come into being? They say, actually, the multiverse. Okay, you need to answer the question. Go back to the beginning. How did the multiverse come into being? That's the point. If this structure is as complex as it is, how did it get to this place? Who built it? Do you get? Do you see why the multiverse thing doesn't work? There's another feedback that Frank Turek usually gives, and Frank Turek is very witty, and I like the way he makes it accessible to people a lot of times. Every time these people want to explain away the universe, they say a multiverse. So if I slap you, and you asked me why I slapped you, I'll be like, there are multiple universes, and there has to be a particular universe in which I slapped you. Are you going to think that this thing I've said now? If it's me, I'll slap you back, because there's a universe that if you slap me, I'll slap you back. There's another universe in which when you slap me, I'll turn my cheek. That's the universe in which I'm born again. But you see, in this universe, exactly. The point would be that the way these people throw the word multiverse, you should be able to explain anything with multiverse. Why is it that there's cancer in this world? Well, there's a multiverse. Why is there so much suffering in this world? Well, there's a multiverse. Why did God command the killing of Canaanite women? Well, there's a multiverse. Why is it that 9/11 there was a bombing? Well, there's a multiverse. Why will Donald Trump lose tomorrow? Well, there's a multiverse. You get the way they use Donald Trump. Why are you looking at me like the whole Donald Trump? Leave that Donald Trump matter. I hope he wins, but I don't think he will.
There will be a multiverse.
I hope this is not prophecy. I didn't prophesy that Biden will win or Trump will win. I'm just telling you what I think, right? It's just what I think. And I hope Trump wins. Sometimes I even hope he doesn't win. I'm not sure what I even want, really, right? But I think that in the end, I think he should win, pros and cons. Things have gotten harder for Nigerians since he's become president. I can't ignore that fact as a Nigerian. Things have gotten harder for Nigerians, yeah. Now you can't travel to the US and give birth in the US and your child will be a US citizen. That used to be an option before. But Trump has become, or he always was anyway. Anyway, whatever your political leanings, if Donald Trump loses tomorrow, why? Multiverse. If he wins tomorrow, why? Multiverse. What happens if you are walking on the road and a car hits you? Well, there's a multiverse. You can use the whole multiverse thing to explain anything. If there's a multiverse, God should exist in one of those universes. Right? And if God exists in one universe, he has to exist in all. That's Anselm's ontological argument, right? You remember? Yes, you remember that ontological argument where we said that a maximally great being, if he exists in one universe at all, in one world, possible worlds, he would have to exist in every possible world, or unless he's not a maximally great being. But you see, if the multiverse is true, then God exists in a possible world, in a universe. And if God exists in that universe, and He is God, and God exists. Either way, if you follow the arguments with atheism, there is no how they escape. Do you get the point? If an atheist is debating a Christian and the Christian is losing, it's the Christian's fault too. It's because you don't know. Atheists don't have one argument for God's non-existence. They don't have one. We will have like 20 arguments for the existence of God. Right? Atheists don't have one. Their job is to debunk our own. And to stand up and say, if there's God, why is there so much suffering? Anyway. But I'm sure you get the whole multiverse thing. And you see the way to respond to the multiverse theory. Number one, there's no evidence for it. So if someone tells you anything about the multiverse, you need to ask for evidence. What's the evidence that a multiverse exists? There's none. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. Number two, there's no such thing as an infinite number of universes. We don't have actual infinites. Right? All we have are potential infinites. We don't have actual infinites. Right? Number three, what did I even say number three? The fact that a multiverse exists doesn't remove the need for a first cause. It doesn't remove the need for a designer. If a multiverse exists, it will be a very complex system. We need at least to think about how that complex system came to be. We need to think about the first cause. And number 4, if a multiverse exists and you're using it to explain this thing, then we can use the multiverse theory to explain anything we want to explain. And it doesn't work that way. Right? So, premise 1, every design had a designer. Premise 2, the universe was designed beyond any reasonable doubt. We have evidence to show that the universe was designed. Conclusion, the universe had a designer. Part of the things, there are certain things, you see, because what science is meant to do is meant to answer questions, right, about causes. Science is meant to answer questions about causes. What caused this thing? This thing. So what will it cause? This thing. That's what science does, answers those kinds of questions. There are certain things in science that are repeatable and demonstrable. So, photosynthesis, for example, is photosynthesis in Nigeria, in Cameroon, and in Congo. Right? Even in the White House, photosynthesis is photosynthesis. If we repeated the same experiments here, we'll get the same results there. Which is one of the things we talked about last time, about the fact that there is this coherence we see across board, which actually points to the fact that the universe was designed. This whole coherence that is across board actually points to the fact that there's one guy behind the show. But you see, there are some things that are not demonstrable. Like the beginning of the universe. We can't repeat it so that we'll go and observe. Do you get? We can't repeat the Big Bang. You can't repeat. Of course now. Because the Big Bang happened out of nothing. Now you can't create nothing to repeat the Big Bang. It's not demonstrable. You can't repeat the origin of life, the first life. You can't. So they tell you some stuff like there was a, what do they call it, organic soup. Yeah. There was one worm, this thing, lightning struck the thing, there were amino acids, and then from there, the amoeba was formed. You see, that thing is a case of chicken and egg, which one came first. Because you need DNA to produce proteins. You may not know, but the scientists know. Every scientist knows you need DNA to produce proteins, right? But DNA is made up of proteins. So which one came first, protein or DNA? Okay, the amino acid or DNA, which one came first? So they tell you that in that organic soup there were amino acids. How were they formed, please? The way we know that amino acids are formed, they are a product of DNA replication. Then they tell you, okay, that's how. That thing is just talk. You can't reproduce it. It means that with science, sometimes all you do is you follow the evidence simply because you cannot test your hypothesis. You just follow where the evidence leads. Right? And if you follow where the evidence leads with the universe, you will end up at the fact that it was designed. Beyond any measure of doubt. Do you get the point? Alright. So, that's for today. Are there any questions? Let's wrap up and then. Next week we'll look at the origin of life. And then hopefully we'll look at evolution.
This multiverse theory,
yeah.
Here we have a kind of fine-tuning pattern where they now collapse and form any other. If you to counter the existence of multiverse,
yeah,
with fine-tuning, so someone tells you that all of the points where these things are coming together were processes of fine-tuning. So the person agrees that there's a multiverse that has a creator. That kind of thing. Yeah. But then the person says that the whole thing now boils down to the fact that the multiverses were fine-tuning until it came to Earth.
Yeah.
How do you... I have a problem.
How will I respond to that?
Yeah.
I want to respond to it. If you agree that there was a creator, we're fine. I'll now ask you, do you believe that his son is Jesus? Go to heaven. That's if you think that there is a multiverse, that a creator, that's not a very scientific statement to say, because science-wise there's no evidence for a multiverse. But if that's what you believe, it's fine. The whole point is in believing there's a creator. So the multiverse theory is an escape from a creator. Right? So if someone says, I believe that there's a creator and the way he created, is the same way that there are some Christians that believe in evolution. Yes, they are theistic evolutionists. So they believe that what God did was God created first life and allowed it to evolve into complex life. God guided it to evolve into complex life. If you're a Christian and you believe in theistic evolution, I can argue with you for the sake of argument. But if you're a Christian, we're going to heaven, that's fine. I don't have any other problem with you. Did you get? It's not a big deal if you think that God created man out of the dust of the earth, or if you think that God allowed an animal to turn into a man. The question is, do you believe in God? You say, I believe. Do you believe in Jesus? I believe. So what are you talking about? You're good. When you get to heaven, you ask God whether it was not. So I'm saying that if someone came at me saying that there was a universe that collapsed and formed another universe and collapsed and formed another universe, the question I'm going to ask him is about first cause. Alright? Who caused it? If you say it was God that eventually caused it, that's fine. No problem. You can't prove that thing from science, but it's fine. For me, it's not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I'm not trying to win a scientific debate. Right? The point of me using all of these things is to turn the person to God. And if he is turned to God, even if his science is not correct, no problem. Right? It's the same way that all of us here, there are many things in science that we believe that are not correct. Even doctrine. There are many things in doctrine that are wrong that we believe. But our heart is turned to the Lord. Do you get the point? Some of you, they told you that if you don't turn to Jesus, you go to hell. And it was because of fear you ran out to the front. You did altar call. You see, when you said those words, God did not say, let's check his doctrine first to see whether he's responding. As soon as you believed with your heart, you confessed with your mouth. Even if it was fear that was chasing you, God accepted you. It's when you now got into church, you now found out that that thing they told you on the crusade ground was not true. You now started learning true Christianity. Do you get? I'm saying that God is okay. Right? If your heart, on salvation, I'm not talking of on Christian growth, on getting saved, and I don't want you to quote me wrong, on getting saved, on this salvation matter, the point is that the heart is turned to the Lord. If the heart is turned to the Lord, God is okay. God will welcome you and then he'll start teaching you later. Right? In the same way, if your science is wrong, I don't have a problem with you if your heart is turned to the Lord. Do you get the point? The whole point of this is to turn the person to God. If the person is turned to God, I'm not going to spend my time debating you, except it's just for growth or it's just for gist or you know that kind of stuff, right?
So somehow I'm asking so that if this person is asking me this question for growth's sake, right? I think this person is a Christian now, but this person wants to know, this person probably wants to know.
Yeah.
Is it now the point to now take the person back to the fact that this thing is not true? There's no multiverse.
Of course. So if now we are born again, right? We're not trying to find evidence for God's existence, but we want to find out, is there a multiverse? Then we can have that debate. Of course we can. It's the same thing we do with doctrine. Right? To arrive at truth, we can discuss it. It's not going to make us not talk or not relate as brothers and all. But we can debate it. But if it was a salvation issue, I'm not going to push it. Do you get the point? If it was, this is a stumbling block to salvation. As much as possible, I want to remove all the stumbling blocks to salvation. If the person gets saved and the person wants to believe wrong science, fine. If you want to believe the earth is flat, it's okay. If you want to believe the earth is flat, it's okay. There's no problem. You can be a flat earther. There are people that are young earth creationists. There are people that are old earth creationists. There are some people that believe that the earth was created 6,000 years ago. It's okay. You can believe that. But it's not true. The earth was not created 6,000 years ago. Those people are young earth creationists, YEC. Right? There are people that are old earth creationists. I'm saying that the Bible is not a science textbook. The Bible is not a physics or a biology textbook. So if you are reading the Bible and you are hoping to get good science from it, you may be wrong. Do you get? So if a Christian now, we come and we say we want to discuss about the universe and all, that's not a biblical discourse again. Now at this point is a physics problem. So we'll open physics references to solve it. Do you understand? Do you get it? So I can have that kind of debate with someone who is a Christian, but I'm not going to cloud it as a Christian debate. It's not a spiritual debate at all. It's a physics thing. Do you get it? Any other question?
Just to say, I think that in the context of philosophy, right?
Yeah.
With the question to ask is which is a superlative argument.
Okay.
So when you consider the multiverse theory against the design theory, the fine-tuning theory, you discover that the fine-tuning is a superlative argument. And so you say, okay, we should subscribe to this rather than so many times it's not about who is 100% right. Which is more plausible, what is more probable. So it's always a way to go.
So again, you get the point. In a lot of this whole detective stuff, you're not going to have like 100% evidence to say that, hey, this is the person that. But you have it's something in a court of law. You are meant to prove beyond any reasonable doubt. That's what you are meant to prove. It's beyond reasonable doubt. Sometimes beyond reasonable doubt you'll be wrong, right? But most times you'll be right. Right, so that's kind of how we use the arguments too. Did you get? So there's this question on WhatsApp. On Mixlr. There are two of them. Let me just address them briefly. The first is, philosophically speaking, can we say God has infinite power since there can only be potential infinites? Yes, we can say God has infinite power. We can say God has infinite power because when we talk about infinite with God, we are not talking about quantity. We are talking about quality. So with infinite, you are looking at a quantity or a quality, right? So when we say God is infinitely love, we're not saying God has 10 million buckets of love in his heart. No, we are saying that as a quality, he is infinitely love, right? So when we use infinity with God, right, which is part of the things I intend to teach very soon. I intend to teach on the attributes of God because Christians don't know the attributes of God. One of the things that we say when we say God is infinite, when we speak of God's infinity, we're not talking about quantity, we're talking about quality, we're talking about the quality of his being. Do you get it? So, with respect to the quality of your being, you are finite in love. You love the people that love you and you hate them that hate you. I know you say otherwise, but if we check, we'll see that it's true. Okay, sorry, even me, that's how it So, with infinite, when we talk of infinite, we can look at it in two ways. We can say quantity, we can say quality. When we say that there are no actual infinites, we are talking about quantitatively, quantity-wise. You can't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to 100 and you get to an actual infinite. But with respect to nature, with respect to quality, we can look at God and we say God is pure love. God is infinitely love. That's the way we use the word. So I'm sure you get that, yeah? Alright, the second question is, if design points to a designer, then how do we account for chaos and disasters in this complexity? Do they disprove the existence of a designer? So if there is chaos and there are natural disasters and all of that, it doesn't disprove the existence of a designer. For example, your phone, right? Say you bought an iPhone, right? And then someone else bought a Samsung, right? And then we found out that the battery of the Samsung lasts longer than the battery of the iPhone. The best we can say is that the iPhone is poorly designed. We can't say that this battery lasts, it doesn't last long because it came out of, there was a big bang in the supermarket and then a phone was formed. We can't say that. The best we can say, right? The best we can say is that there was poor design. That's the best we can say. That doesn't invalidate a designer. The best you can say is the designer was poor at his job, but you still retain the fact of a designer. But number two is, you don't even want to look at it like that. You also want to look at it according to purpose. Design only makes sense according to the purpose for which the thing was designed for. So if God created this earth to last forever, then it will not make sense if there's chaos and earthquakes and disasters. If God created this your body to last forever, then it will not make sense if your bones were made of calcium that can easily break in an accident. Right? If God made your body to last forever, he probably would have given you titanium bones. So that no matter what happens, it won't break. Your veins would have been made of Teflon. Your bones would have been made of steel. Did you get the point? So you're looking at it on two levels. Number one, you're looking at, does poor design mean no design? No, it doesn't. Number two, you're looking at the purpose for the design. Why was this thing designed? You need to look at purpose before you can judge. The reason there is an iPhone 11 Pro is because they know that one day there will be an iPhone 12. That's why. That's why there are certain things they didn't put inside that iPhone 11 Pro. It's deliberate. It's not poor design. It's intentional. Because if that one is perfect, you won't buy iPhone 12. Do you get the point? And then number 3 is that with design, there's always trade-off. There's always trade-off with design. You can have a phone that the battery lasts for 2 years, but you won't be able to carry it. This is how you carry the phone, because the thing is so thick, so it's so heavy, right? And then you have a phone that has an amazing camera, right? But the processor is very slow, or the battery runs down very easily. It's because every time there's design, there's trade-off. There are trade-offs that people make. And why God will not give you titanium bones is because if you had titanium bones, we will not have Usain Bolt. We won't have Michael Phelps. How will Michael Phelps swim if his bones are made of titanium? Do you get the point? So there are trade-offs. And with design, you see those kinds of stuff. So number 1, you're looking at the fact that poor design does not mean no design. Number 2, you're looking at purpose. Number 3, you're looking at trades-off in the design. So by the time you look at all of these things and you see the chaos and the disorder that happens, then you can't go from that to say there is no designer. But number 4, and this is the most important of all, the fall happened. You can't forget that bit. There is the fall. And with the fall, when humankind fell, everything fell with humankind. Nature fell, everything. So all of the processes that God had built into nature began to function at a level that they were not meant to function at. So that the Bible says that in the end, the creation is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, so that they can be released into the glorious liberty of the sons of God. And of course, you know that manifestation is not healing the sick and raising the dead and all of that. It is at the end of time when we receive our new bodies and we go up to God to be with Him. At that point, there will be the release of creation into the liberty of the sons of God. So I've given you 4 points on this matter. Yeah. Number 1, poor design is no design. It doesn't work. Poor design equals no design. That doesn't work. Right? Number 2, you need to look at the purpose for the design. Number 3, you need to look at trade-offs when you're looking at the design. Number 4, you now need to consider the fall. The fall changed everything. So what is not what ought to be. Yeah. Right? So when you look at all of these things, you see that this is not enough reason to discount the need for a designer. Alright.
So the first question about infinity and quality, the first way I thought of it was that even if God's nature, if what we said about God was quantity, what would have been the problem with that? Mm-hmm. What would have been the problem if we thought that the love of God quantitatively is infinite?
Well, the problem will be, it will be a reasoning problem. So I'm going to ask you, how much is your own love? Your love is how many?
15 buckets.
So if I ask you, how much does love weigh? Do you get the point? What's the color of courage? Purplish yellow. With those kinds of qualities, right? Qualities like love, in fact, personal qualities, right? Personal qualities cannot be quantitative. That's the problem with it. It's not because we cannot say God has infinite love. Like God's love is too much, it cannot finish. We say those kinds of things, right? But we say it, at least people that say it when they are thinking, we say it as a manner of speaking. We don't mean it. We don't mean that if you start counting the love in the heart of God, you count, it will not finish. Right? Because even if you said it like that, and you say that love now is for all the human beings in the world. We know how many human beings have existed in the world so far. Okay, you say, okay, it's not only for the human beings, for angels. Well, there's a number of angels. Yes, there is. And God knows the number. It's for us. It's when the writers are telling us, they'll now say an innumerable company of angels. Is the right? We can't count. Do you get the point? But God knows the number of angels. How many angels exist? God knows. It's part of what it means to be omniscient. Right? But that does not mean that we can now go from that to saying that God God's love is quantitative. We can't address personal qualities, or we can't address personal qualities in quantitative terms. They are always in qualitative terms, right? So you say that person is not very loving, and that person is not very nice. You don't have a scale by which to measure it. You say his niceness is 7.2, but my own is 92. You have no such scale, right? Yeah. Alright, so thank you for coming to today's class. I hope that it has helped. I'll try to ensure that the MP3 is up. Today is Monday. I'll try to ensure that the MP3 is up by Wednesday, so that I'm sure that by the time you listen, you would be able to understand.